September for the next conference.
You bet. We're gonna do that. And I just want to take a warm welcome to everybody. Today is our final 16th day, and what a journey this has been. I just want to acknowledge you all and say thank you. Merci beaucoup. Mucho gracias. Asante sana. Zikomo. Tatenda maita henyu siabonga. You know, I look at today, we celebrate the basic dignity and equality of every human being, which bind us all. Human Rights Day reminds us that every one of us has a role toward the dream of a society where freedom, justice, peace rule rather than only a high ideal. This is a day to honor the successes of those who came before us and to pledge the work remaining to be done so that every voice is heard, every right is honored, and every individual has chances to flourish. Working together, we can only convert hope into deeds and create a better future for next generations. I'm totally inspired. If you tuned in on Sunday, oh, we had young minds. When I say beautiful minds, our, our panelists were young people. It was so intergenerational. And I know, Tam, you were on that and you saw that just unfold and unravel. I want to take this opportunity to thank all our youngest, but mostly I want us to open the mic and just give a thumbs up for Shirley. Shirley is our youngest activist, speaker, facilitator, you name it. And oh my God, is she not ready to blow us up? Well, Basuda said, if I have to just out of the 16 days, she says, we put the world in a mess. And the young people are there to remind us that we gotta fix it. So I'm excited. I am excited just to go through the housekeeping rules. We all gonna turn off our mics so that we can allow our presenters so that we don't get feedback. So I will ask everyone at this point to mute their mics, and then I'll just quickly go through what this day is gonna look like. We are ready. That's what I can tell you. It's been 16 days. It's been a journey. I know Monica and I, Tam, Banja, and everybody, Vich, all the hope for her global entities and all our partners, collaborators, and all the organizations that said yes to this call. We've been doing it for the past 5 years. This would not be possible without each and every one of you. So the success is not to hope for her global, but it is to all of us for turning up, and showing out and amplifying our voices that the time is now. The time is now. As I always say every year, I remind those of us that the fight that we're in belongs to all of us. It does not belong to Hope for Her Global only. Neither does it belong to Maria only, or Elizabeth, or Monica, or Charles, or Linda, or Tamrak, or Carolyn. It belongs to all of us. And each and every one of us has a responsibility to amplify the voices beyond the mountaintops, beyond the hills, beyond the seas and the oceans, because this is what separates us, but technology brings us together. And this morning, we are so proud that we are cross-continental right now. We've got North America, we've got Africa in the house, and we're still counting. I want us to understand that. We've got Kenya, we've got Nigeria, we've got Ghana, we've got India, we've got Canada, we've got the United States, we've got Zimbabwe, and we are still counting. And we are not stopping. We've got our men champions joining us all the way from Kakamega. We want to acknowledge you and say thank you to the men champions out of Kakamega, Kenya. They've been with us for the past 16 days. Every single day they've turned up, regardless of the situation, lack of internet, lack of sources. They stepped up. They showed us what it's like. I want to say, acknowledge to World Pulse Sisters and Tamarack. You're a brilliant ambassador. Thank you, Tam. We've been doing this journey for the past decade plus, and we're not stopping. And you know what? Like you said, I don't know how we do it, but I know we just do it. I want to acknowledge my sisters from Africa. I am first African more than anything else. I will reflect on Ubuntu as I say thank you to you all. I am because we are. And I stand with you, my African sisters, until our voices are heard. I stand with our Colombian sisters, both Afro-Colombian and Colombians, native Colombians. We say we are together in this. And you have been with us for the past 5 years, and we are still counting. I want to say heads off to our Caribbean sisters, those that have been able to join us, from the Asian sisters, India, Pakistan, you name it, you were all there. You stepped up. Afghanistan, we had a young activist remind us that every girl has a right to an education. Robina, who is a Lady Diana recipient, was with us on Sunday, and she reminded us that together we can make sure that the Afghan girls are given the right, which is a human right. Education is their human right. And I want to attest to the Afghan women and our sisters that in solidarity, we stand with you. I want to say and acknowledge Sister Janice, all the way in Oklahoma, United States. You have been with us for the past 5 years, and we're counting. You win whilst working with Janice. I want to acknowledge our very own Ruth Snyder. I call her the African sister. She lived in Africa, in Southern Africa. I'm going to own this. She lived in Southern Africa, Botswana, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. So we pay homage to you, Ruth. You're always going to be one of us and will always stand with us. And we love you. And to say the least, she's also the publisher. So we get to share our stories. And Ruth, you know, we've got things that are cooking, and we look forward definitely to coming to South Africa, and we will share later what we are bringing forth. So without further ado, and what about Monica? Monica will kill me. She hates it when I do this and I put her on the spot. Mamacita, as I call her. Her real name is Monica Arango. She is African, just like I am Colombian. These are two women that met one day, second cup, many donkey years ago. She was wearing red lipstick, and she just came in. We are both short, by the way, just to put it out there. So when you see us, we are two short women. They say dynamite comes in small packages. I'm sure we've been dynamite. And I want to pay homage to her. We come from different continents. We're just simple women that aspire to have more women voices heard. It has not been an easy journey, but we have toiled. She has prayed more than I've prayed. She's told me I'm loco more than anybody has called me loco. She's told me to go to bed when she feels I'm burning out. She's the big sister. I have others, but she's a big sister that God gave. And it's been a pleasure doing this journey with you, what I call the ride of our life. And I always tell her, Monica, one day we'll sit back by the beach somewhere in Colombia or in Africa, and we will laugh and we'll say, wow, look what we did. So, Monica, I want to say to you, Mamacita, mucho gracias. We appreciate you. You all will learn more from Monica later on. But I just wanted to take this moment. And Elizabeth, it was love at first hello. We're still looking forward to what will come. We spoke so much on the phone on our first call. I don't know what we cut out for, but I know we're going to make some positive noise in Edmonton, Alberta. And we hope to woo you to Africa with us in September. I wish I could say no better. A young sister that she's been there for us. And I'll call her my baby sister. I know my little sister, if she's listening, she'll probably say, what? I didn't know. Banja, it's been 5 years, all the way in Nairobi. How we do it, we don't know. We managed to synchronize our times. We managed to still make it work. And every time when I feel like throwing in the towel, Banja reminds me, you got work to do. You got work to do. So Banja, I'll say Asante Sana, Karibu. I'm chopping it right now because I'll blame it on you and Uncle Charles and Violet Okwamba to say you have not taught me Swahili. So it's all your fault. I would have loved to express myself in Swahili, but I will say to you, Asante Sana, because words are not enough to thank you. But I'll say thank you all the same. And to my nieces and everyone else, I push you hard because I expect a lot out of you. Vivi is right here with us. She's been sent to hell and back by Aunt Tete. She calls me Tete. She cannot call me anything else. And it's a blessing when we have young minds. She's the curator for the South Africa. I just wanted to mention her because she will share a little something, but she has brought young energy to Hope for Her Global. We've got Chance, we've got Mia, we've got so many of the young, beautiful minds that have come on board. We want to encourage V to keep working hard and to bring more minds, because this conference is for you. You are the future. This is why we're going to up and leave and come to Bloemfontein, South Africa. For the first time, we bring the conference home. It's going to be intergenerational. There's going to be healing that's going to happen. But we're going to come up with feasible solutions that will make us, as Monica reminded us, all the activists, feminists, the older ones, you are the hero makers. If anything you take away, know that you're responsible. You are responsible for so many heroes. So this is what we can say. I see it's 8:15 and we're going to start on time. And I see most of the panelists are here. And I just had to put that spiel because as things unravel, we may not be able to thank each and every one of you. But we just wanted to say you all hold a special place in our dear heart. And we thank you because we know you could have been doing something else, but you chose to be with us today. So as I said earlier on, we will start with the opening, which will be graced by Elizabeth Lai, all the way from Calgary, Canada, Alberta, Canada. And I'll be happy to share her biography in a little bit. And then we'll go on to have our keynote for the Human Rights Day to mark it off. And then we'll have the panelists come in, where I will be yours truly, the moderator. And we'll then have the vote of thanks from Shirley, all the way from Kenya. And then Monica Arango will give our final closing for the 16 days 2024. So she needs no introduction because the other day I shared her with you all in absentia. And because we apologize, there was a bit of a mix-up but we are hoping that somehow we'll make it work. And Elizabeth, like I say, she, if I put it well, needs no introduction, because I am going to honor her, because I would love everyone to be able to connect with you. Because if I read out her bio, then it will take away the time that she would want to connect with you all. That's why I said she is no stranger. She is the CEO and founder of Power of Humanity Consulting Incorporated. She is no stranger to this kind of work. She has received accolades, but she is definitely a visionary. This time we welcome her to a different platform. She has worked with different organizations at federal level, at local level, civil, but she continues to be heard and across Canada. So Elizabeth, I will then hand over the mic to you. And I'll introduce our whole panel and tribe to you.
Thank you so much, sister. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. I was listening to Maria, and I have to say I'm an extra firecracker for your team. I'm also short, but it's nice on Zoom because you can hide behind and no one really knows how short you are. So I am so excited. It blows my mind. I keep going through the people on the panel, and I just want to get to know everyone. I just want to sit together and talk, because I know there's just so much talent and experience and knowledge in this room. So I know this 45 minutes is going to go by really, really, really quick. And it is truly an honor and a privilege to be here with each and every one of you today. As Maria had mentioned at the end of this presentation, you can tell I'm a mom, I have children. So any other family members in here? It's still early. Mine hasn't gone to school yet. Say hi globally. All right. That's my son, Renzo. So as we go through today's presentation, it's going to be quick. You know, this presentation, when I designed it, it can go anywhere from 60, 90 minutes, a half a day. But today I just want to give you a bit of a highlight in terms of the topics that are covered, the history behind the presentation, and really my main, I think, objectives and why I feel so strongly about a program like Hate Hurts. So I encourage all of you, as I mentioned in the beginning, please feel free to keep your cameras on. I encourage you to ask questions. For me, this is about sharing knowledge, and please feel free to ask questions. And at the end, as Maria had mentioned, you'll have all my contact information. So there's my website, my contact number, my email. So even though this will be brief, you will be able to get in touch with me at any time. So welcome. So a little bit of history, where this program, I'm not going to go into the bio like Maria had said, there's no time for that. You know, my background, I've worked in the area of diversity and inclusion for over 18 years. I also have a background in criminal justice, personal safety, self-defense, conflict resolution. I've worked frontline with youth for many, many, many years. But truly, I'm a facilitator by heart. But when I say that, I can only facilitate topics that I feel so strongly towards. In the area of hate and bias and racism and discrimination, homophobia, etc. These are all topics that I feel very, very strongly towards. So I do consider myself to be an ally, and I work every single day to break down barriers through facilitating respectful dialogue. So we're going to come back to what that means a little later, but I come back to that word respect. Okay. And we're going to come back to that throughout this presentation. I also believe in empowering our youth. So through this presentation, when I do work, and I do work in the schools and in the community, I don't just leave a presentation and talk. What I do is I provide tangible skills and tools for our young people to be able to respond to the various forms of discrimination that they're hearing on a daily, whether it be on social media, with their peers, things that they're hearing, in their sports teams. I do a lot of work in the area of sports as well. But not only youth, I think as adults, as professionals, some of us may still struggle on how to respond to the various forms of discrimination that we hear or that we see on social media. So a big kind of aim and a hope and an objective for my program is to leave these conversations with really having some dialogue and providing people with skills. Because as all of us in this room can probably agree, it's tough. It's tough to know how to respond to comments, to name calling, to labels, to discrimination. It's tough to know what to do. It's easy to respond to it in the wrong way, with anger, perhaps with violence. But as we all know, that's not how we solve this problem. A lot of times we solve this problem from having very early dialogue, not letting it fester, not letting it grow, not letting it snowball into something so big. So it's about how do we have that conversation in the beginning in a respectful way, hopefully. That's what we can try. And hopefully we can send our message in a way that we can prevent people from speaking in a way around us that make us feel uncomfortable. So in terms of some of the objectives, and I'll break every couple minutes just to make sure there's, some questions and some comments. But a few of the objectives for the Hate Hurts program, first of all, is to raise awareness on the issues of diversity, on the issues of inclusion, what the differences are between the two. Okay, so first of all, I like to just talk about the words diversity, inclusion, stereotypes, discrimination, bias, which we'll come back to a little later. Another one of my objectives that is through the information, through education, and through awareness is that hopefully we can reduce the amount of occurrences. So what I hope is through education and through knowledge around the impact that these words and things like this have on people, that we can reduce the occurrences and ultimately reduce hate crime. So I know we have folks here globally. We have people from Nigeria, South Africa, we have the United States, India, etc. So I know it looks different. Laws, implications, the criminal codes and things like this look different all across the world. So I'm curious to hear from those of you who are willing to share either what this looks like in the communities that you're living. When we think about hate crime, if you observe some of these things, I know in some situations it's definitely to the extreme, but I want to just have a bit of a conversation with those of you who are open to sharing. And then the last objective of the program like this is to empower individuals to stand up safely. First and foremost, we missed the presentation last week, but safety is paramount. Okay, I never suggest anyone put themselves in a situation where you make yourself unsafe or you have the potential to be harmed. But I do think we have a responsibility, first and foremost, to be accountable for what's coming out of our mouths, because that's one thing we can control. That's one thing we can start making a change. And then what we start doing is we start having conversations with people that we feel safe with, our friends, our family, right? Maybe the people that are around us that we don't have to be concerned with our safety. So my another huge objective is to empower individuals. So I know for the past 16 days, you've had conversations around, activism, empowerment, what to do globally, right? To address this issue around gender-based violence and so many other such important issues that you've covered in these past 16 days, which Maria, I cannot say how important the work that all of you are doing. And it's nice to see, different genders in the room today, because this isn't just a message for women, right? We all have a responsibility to address this very important issue. So when we talk about diversity, pop it in the chat, all the things that make us diverse. What are all the beautiful things that make us diverse? We can put it globally, wherever you're coming in from today. What makes us diverse? You can unmute yourself. Thank you, Monica. And we can come back to some of these chats at the end as well. We'll leave some room for some questions and answers. But when we think of things that make us different, what comes to mind? Race, religion, what else? Culture, skin color. Thank you, Ruth. Culture. One conversation I have with a lot of folks, I think there's a lot of family upbringing. Yes, we are a unique creation of God. Economic status, varying disabilities, You have sexual orientation, family, right? Those dynamics. We are seeing so much diversity, so much richness and diversity throughout the whole entire world. One thing I come back to, and I'm sure a lot of you have had conversations on this, is the difference between culture and religion. And when you come back to education, it blows my mind. I go to so many schools. I've done this work for so many years. The misunderstanding around that. A lot of people will speak without, maybe not having some education and some awareness around what they're talking about. Thank you, Maria. But it's the difference between culture and religion. People will make blanket statements, right? Oh, that's just part of their religion. When in fact, you really think about that and you have some conversation, you're like, I don't know if it's part of their religion. Is it part of their culture? Is it part of their family upbringing? Right? Is it part of their belief system? Excellent. Thank you, Avni. Learning opportunities, knowledge. Beautiful. Okay. So when we're thinking about diversity, it's all of the things that make us different and unique. When I'm in a group setting, especially with young people, I'll ask a question and I'll say, okay, by the raise of hands, how many of you think it's okay to be different? I just put it out there. And of course, the majority have their hand up. Some people just don't want to play along. But, the majority of people, they're like, yeah, of course, diversity is good. We love diversity. And I say, okay, well, then how many of you see people in your schools, in your community, at the workplace, and they're being picked on? They're being made fun of. They're being discriminated against because of their difference. And then the hands come up again. So, okay, I said, this is where we have a problem. If we're okay with diversity, and me personally, I can only speak, personally, is that I truly love diversity. I don't love diversity just when I'm at work. And I've certainly, as Maria had mentioned, my background, I've worked, in large organizations. I've educated law enforcement. I've been in big companies. And a big reason I left is because I don't believe not all of them, and I'm not putting them all in one box, but I've certainly worked in companies where I did not believe that everybody truly embraced diversity. Some people embrace it when they go to work, but then they go home and things are different. And I think that's dangerous. In the work that I do, I'm an ally 24/7. When I say I respect diversity, I love diversity, I don't turn it off, because I think if we're living in that type of bubble, it can be dangerous. And we have to ask ourselves, why? Where is this coming from? So when I ask the young people, and I know there's some youth in this room today, why are people being harmed? Or why is there violence? Why is there stuff on social media? Why are people being harmed just because they're different? None of us were born hating anybody. None of us. So then where does hate come from? And I'll open the floor up to that question. If we can all say we love diversity, we celebrate diversity. You've had 16 days of talking about some huge, just important issues globally. So if we're okay with diversity, where does hate come from? I'm going to come back to that slide. Where do you think hate comes from? The type of hate that we see where places of worship are being, vandalized, places are being set on fire. We have war. We have people being brutally attacked simply because of their difference. So then where does this come from? I see the chat popping off. Hold on. Hate is within.
Hate is within. It's within how we perceive it, how we see it. If it's embedded, it's within our own perception.
Wow.
Because we can hate because of how we look. We may be different to others. We may speak a different language. We may not agree with their religious beliefs. And it's all embedded and ingrained within one.
And I know time goes fast. I'm going to jump right to what you said, Maria, because one of my main, points I put across right in the beginning, because when I go to schools and I go into communities, first and foremost, I say, I'm not here to lecture you. Let's just say that I'm not here to lecture anybody. I have my own children to lecture, right? I have my own people in my life that I'd lecture. When I come out and do this work, this isn't about lecturing. This is about acknowledge. This is about awareness, education, right? So I always say that right away. And I also liked what you said, Maria. You know, it's one thing to not like another religion or not agree with another person's, you know, ideologies, maybe not agree with somebody's lifestyle. That's okay. That's not illegal. That's not criminal. It's a different thing to disrespect somebody. You see the difference? When I always come out and give presentations, it's like, listen, I'm not telling anyone that you have to love everyone, like everyone, agree with everybody's lifestyle. What I'm asking is, how do we get to a place where we can just respect one another, regardless of our difference? You see the difference there? And sometimes when I challenge somebody to look, just to kind of get into that mindset, it's like, nobody's telling you you have to be everybody's friend. We're not going to like everybody. You're right, Shirley. There is peer pressure. Hate is taught. It is a mindset, right? All the things, friends. I saw so many beautiful things coming. Well, it's not beautiful, but so many very valid things coming up in this chat, right? Monica, families, schools. You know, this is information that teachers need. Teachers need to know how to respond to forms of discrimination. Teachers need to know how to deal with when they're, you know, when they're observing some of this behavior with their students. But again, it's going back to that mindset, right? Not having to agree with everybody's lifestyle, but getting to a place of mutual respect. And how do we get there? It's through understanding. It's through education. It's through exposure, right? So I think that's a big piece of this presentation and this program that I really try to encourage people just to sit back and think a little bit. If we're struggling with somebody's background, their orientation, their ideologies, how do we get to a place of just mutual respect? We don't have to agree with one another, because let's face it, I wish, like I said, we had all day, because I would love to learn so much about all of the countries that are here today. It is certainly not a place that we're going to get where we just maybe understand love, right? Want to be everyone's friend. But how do we get to a place of mutual respect? So that's a big piece of this program. So thank you for everyone who put that in our chat. In terms of where does hate come from? Exactly what you mentioned. Media, family, friends, past experience is another big one. If we had a real negative experience, or if a group of people did something horrible to the people we love, that's really tough to forgive, isn't it? And I get that. But sometimes, you know, I always tell folks that I work with, if we have bias, we have to walk towards that bias, because we have to know that not everybody's the same. When we start stereotyping and putting everybody in that same box, that's dangerous. And I think all of us in this room can remember a time, relate to a time where we've been put in that box based on our culture, our background, the way we look, right? So that's a piece that I really, really try to talk to and work with the communities that I serve. How do we get to a place of respect, human respect? That's all we want. No matter what background we represent, what country we're from, I think everybody in this room, no matter where we're coming into, signing in from today, all of us, I think, can agree that at the end of the day, you don't have to like me, but I'd like for you to respect me, right? And I think we can all agree that that's what we want. So how do we get there? And that's my goal for as long as I have a voice and as many communities that I can serve. How do we get to a place of respect? So the work that you're doing, again, I cannot say enough. And I'm so, so privileged to be here today. I literally have goosebumps. Like, I cannot wait to answer some questions at the end of this presentation. I have a bit of a definition up here, and I know every country is different. For those of us here today in Canada, this is just a bit of a definition of what a hate crime looks like here in Canada, how it's defined in the Canadian Criminal Code. In the United States, all across the world, this is handled differently on all kinds of levels. But in Canada, this is how it's dealt with. And to make it as easy as possible, I have a couple little case studies I'll pop up. But basically, it's any criminal offense. So that could be assault, vandalism, threats, things like that. And if there's a crime and it's committed based on that person's identifiable group, so those are all of the kind of those diversity dimensions and groups that we defined in the beginning: race, family, culture, right? Orientation. If there's a crime committed against a person or a group of people, and it's because of the group they belong to, so their identity, that makes it a hate motivated crime. In Canada, there's no hate crime section in the Canadian Criminal Code, but there are sections, they have mischief to religious property. They have a advocating genocide, public incitement of hatred, okay, willful promotion of hatred, all of those different codes in the Canadian Criminal Code. But what they have here in Canada, which is interesting, is they have something in it's called section 718.2. And what that is that allows a judge to give an increased sentence in court if that the Crown prosecutor and folks can actually prove that the crime was motivated by hate. So how it works in Canada is they get charged with the crime and then they get charged with the motivation as well. So it's like an extra sentencing option, which, again, if we had more time to chat today, I'd say, well, what do folks think about that? Does it happen as much as I think it should? No, because hate is tough to prove, isn't it? It's tough to prove motivation. It's really tough to prove motivation. Someone can say, I was attacked because of the color of my skin. And they can say, okay, well, prove it. If there's no witnesses, if there's no CCTV, if there's no cameras, it's tough to prove a motivation of a crime, unless it's, pretty blatant, like the other crimes in the Canadian Criminal Code, like the mischief to religious property, etc. But that's how it works here in Canada, right? For the young people in the room today, sometimes when I'm in schools, I do a little bit of a scenario where I say, okay, let's say someone's in a relationship and you have a partner and you really, really love them. And let's say your best friend steals them from you. So you hate them. And then you hate them so much, you decide you're going to beat them up. Not a good decision. But I often will ask people, is that a hate crime? And some of the youth will have their hands up. Yeah, that's a crime of passion. Sometimes they'll say, and I'll say, no, that's assault. But even though you hated that person, it doesn't make it a hate crime because it wasn't motivated on their identifiable group. It was motivated because of a personal opinion, a personal feeling, something they did to you, right? And there's a big difference there. And I always tell people that I work with, I could never come out and develop a program and talk about a program so passionately. I couldn't talk about every crime like this. This crime gets so just under my skin because these are crimes happening to people, not because of what they did, but because of who they are. And that hits me different. I'm not saying any crime's right, but this crime really hits me different because none of us should ever have to walk out into our communities, out into our schools, within our jobs, and ever feel that we're afraid that we're going to get hurt or our families are going to be hurt because of who we are. We should be proud of who we are. I wish we could all live in a world, this whole entire world, and be able to walk the streets and be proud and celebrate who we are without having fear of being harmed. But as we all know here in this room today, that's not the case everywhere. So again, Maria, this is my hope that I can support you in the work that you're doing globally and come out and try to spread this important message. So a couple of case studies that are never fun to see. These are awful. During COVID-19, the pandemic, what we saw here in Calgary, and I think what we saw throughout the country, and I know some of you are coming in from Montreal and some other places, that we saw an increase in hate crimes towards the Asian community. So we had, people being spat on, being hurt, being threatened, putting the blame of COVID-19 on them because of their background. So we saw an increase in hate crimes toward the community. We've also seen cases here in Calgary. This one's from back in 2022, where we have young people. These are youth going out and they're targeting homeless people. So people who are vulnerable, people who are living, downtown somewhere, they're homeless and they've been attacked. This would also be considered a targeted, hate-motivated crime based on their vulnerabilities. So just a couple of examples. We've had young women, young men walk into stores, dollar stores, convenience stores, being spat on because of the color of their skin. We've had our Muslim sisters walking into grocery stores with their children, being called terrorists, being told to go back home. Examples of hate-motivated incidents and crimes, okay? So in terms of why victims don't report, I'm sure all of us in this room would have some very important things to put forward, but these crimes are highly, highly underreported. Some will say 10% of hate crimes ever get reported to the police. Again, this is a big reason why I spend as much time as I can going out, sharing this information, because these crimes and incidents have to be reported. I'm going to go back in a minute and talk briefly about hate incidents before I open the floor for questions in a little bit here. But I think about hate crimes in Canada anyway, when we think about why people don't report these crimes, they're afraid, right? If you think about, even here in Canada, people don't trust the police. There's fear of law enforcement. There's language barriers, right? There's fear of immigration. There's cultural barriers. Some cultures think, you know what, I'm going to deal with this myself. This is how I deal with this. I'm going to take care of it. And sometimes they feel like nothing will come from the report, right? What's the point of talking about it? Nobody's going to do anything. So this is something, and I'll open the floor to if there's any questions or comments, if you want me to go back through anything before we move on. How's everyone doing? I know
Liz,
I see some.
we're doing Liz, but
Monica.
we're still on the first slide on the screen.
Oh, okay.
And we're not seeing the changes.
Oh, we'll go back. Let's see.
No, seeing a different one.
Let's try. We'll go stop share. Sometimes we'll just open this one back. Well, I wish you would have told me sooner.
I was trying to chat, but you were ignoring me.
Let's see.
Hey, while you fix that, I don't know if that is true or not, but sometimes the people doesn't talk about it because they are ashamed, because they're proud. They don't want to go there and be kind of feeling that they are powerless. Our inside want to keep that I'm okay. I can handle by myself. I want to keep this relationship. I'm defending my kids. I don't want to risk what I have. I am in that safe place, even that the place is not safe. But it's a comfortable, and I don't have to open up. So it's not only that the men or it's as well ourselves. It's funny when I am posting all the videos and stuff, if you're looking for human rights, you're looking for those words to post stuff,
yes,
it's a low search because the people doesn't want to know, and the people doesn't want to talk about this.
No. Monica, that's so important. And if anyone's familiar with, if anyone's tried to launch a human rights complaint, especially if you're trying to launch a human rights complaint, against a large organization or a large corporation, money is an issue, right? There's financial barriers. It can be very, very challenging. And you're right, Monica, that's why people don't do it. They feel like, you know what? I don't want to put myself out there. I'm nervous. I'm scared. No one's going to believe me, right? Maria, can you see the slide up?
Yes, I can.
Good.
Yes, I can.
I'd like to know that globally there's technological issues too, because I'll tell you, that doesn't seem to fail no matter where we live. So Monica, I appreciate that. But I think too, should we be encouraging each other more to launch some of these the human rights complaints? Are people even aware of their basic and their fundamental human rights? A lot of people don't have that education. And I think that's when we talk about the education system, one thing that really, really made me frustrated is that a lot of times diversity training, human rights training, we don't see that until we're well into our adult years. For a lot of us, we don't really learn about a lot of these things. And that's where I always was pushing the fact that we need to get this information into our school system. We need to embed it from a very, very early age, right? The teachers need to be aware of it. Our, elementary students, we need to be talking about what our human rights are, right? So I think that's so important. So important. So thank you. Any questions before we move on? I know the time's a ticking. Let's see if is the next screen going? Maria, is the next screen up now? Perfect.
Yes, it is.
Excellent. So I know we talked a lot about the hate crimes, and you know what? I mean, it's a tough one here because we are all here from different places throughout the world. But one, I guess, one of the biggest pieces of this presentation is hate crimes are one thing, launching human rights complaints are another thing. How do we get ahead of this? How do we get ahead of the hate incidents? Because these don't meet the threshold of a crime. It's not illegal to call somebody a name. It's not illegal to offend somebody. Now, we all know the implications of that, and we know how violence can occur. We have, group chats all over social media. But when we think about hate incidents, this is, I think, where we need to start with our youth. This is where we need to start empowering people. How do we get ahead of the name calling, the discrimination, some of these remarks? The hate incidents, I think, are huge. And this is where I know we have some of the young people here today, but how do we have conversations with our friends? If they're making comments that make us feel uncomfortable, if they're reusing a word that offends us, what do we say? What do we do? So I want to open the floor up because this is a big part of this presentation. I can sit and I can share slides forever, but let's talk about some tangible skills. If we hear someone use a racial slur, a comment towards someone's religious background, what can we do? What are some things that we've tried to do that maybe have worked, maybe that didn't go so well? What are some things that we can do? I know Raquel's there. Looking in, who we have. What are some things that we can say?
I think first and most is the one-on-one conversations.
Sorry, I'm going to get back to that one. What was that?
I think the most important is the one-on-one conversations.
Okay.
Because sometimes you approach in public, and that is not going to work because you are doing the same that they are doing.
Absolutely.
So it's to not to confront, but question how you came to that conclusion, or is that friendly conversation, candid conversation that is part of what we are trying to do, even with the men here in Hope for Her, is to get that conversation, start to talk, because probably this is something that you embrace from your family, or that is what you saw in here. So what you are doing, or what you are right to that conclusion that that person is less than you, why you are thinking that that person is different.
That's right. And I loved how you said the one-on-one. I'll often say this to teachers as well, because a lot of times if teachers overhear a student make a comment, I say, don't embarrass them in front of the whole class. Take them aside, at the end of that class and say, listen, you made this comment. Why did you say that? Do you know the impact that this has? Where is this coming from? Start to find that root cause. And that's a big piece of the work that I do, because there's always a root cause. It's coming from somewhere. So I really, really liked that, Monica. Thank you. Anyone else have any experience with this, or would you have anything else to share?
I think Aveen had a hand up. So Aveen, you can unmute.
Sure, thank you. So it was something similar, Elizabeth, just that you just mentioned, to first make it one-on-one, then also to put it sometimes sarcastically or maybe in a funny manner in some other situation where a person may be slightly offended, but not offended to an extent that it hits his ego. Because all the time it does not really work that you try to make the other person understand, but the person is just not listening or just not seeing that there is something wrong in what he did.
Yeah, absolutely. And this can go, if you think about microaggressions, if you think about anything, forms of discrimination, like you had said, is this always going to work? Maybe not, but if we come from a place of anger, right, it's certainly not going to make any difference. Violence, it's not going to help the situation. Using humor, it's interesting you say that. That's my go-to at first. I try to go there just so I can try to see how I can move the conversation. Hopefully I can make my point without causing a big scene, right? Because obviously if I'm somewhere in a social setting, or if I'm somewhere, watching sports, or if I'm in the community, I'm not going to stop and give a hate hurts presentation, right? But I think it's important to kind of make it known that, ooh, ouch, that offended me, right? Like, where did that come from? That's my line in the sand. Let's talk about that. And sometimes even just repeating what they've said. I gave you a couple of options here. This anti-discrimination response training can be done in a 2-day, 4-day, like this takes practice, right? Through scenarios, through conversations, right? Because a lot of this is very, very uncomfortable for people. But I think, like you said, using humor is actually one. Repeating what the person said back to them, to give them an opportunity to rethink what they've said, because I think we all know people who just speak without thinking first, right?
I mean, just to give it a little reference, so there was an incident where I was told by one of the men, very close relationship, where he said that you should apply something on your lips because it looks like it has got fungi on them.
Oh,
okay. So now this thing definitely offended me and took me on a different note. Yeah. But I mean, I genuinely wanted the person to actually understand the extent to which it has caused effect in my mind. So I put it across in terms of humor in front of friends, that sometimes if girls do not put a lipstick or something, their lips might turn out to be a fungi. And that is something that I'm recently told. And I also told the men that be careful that you are not being hurt by me. Had there been some other woman, she would have just backed you off for those comments.
That's so true.
You're safer now. So the message was communicated, but then it is insulting that was communicated as well.
That's right. Absolutely. And I think for some, and Charles, I want to come to you next. I see your hand up. So it would be nice to hear from the fellas what you think. It's certainly, you want to point out the hurtful nature, but you don't want to come across as, well, everything you say is going to just offend me. But you certainly want to let that person know that, you know what, that comment, I don't appreciate that. It does offend me. And your delivery could be a little different, right? I appreciate that. Charles, you have your hand up.
Uncle Charles, if you can unmute.
Yes, thank you so much, Elizabeth. We are really learning a lot about human rights. I want to cite an example in the rural. In the rural, we are affected with what you call education. Quite a number of people are not educated. Mm-hmm. Quite a number of people have no what human right is. For example, when we came up with the widows program as men champions, we realized that quite a number of these ladies were suffering in their house when their lands are deprived from them, when their brother-in-laws, they're abusing them, when they have even children who are abusing them. But when we brought them together, they became stronger. So I want to issue a way of bringing people together and having dialogue. Yes. It helps a lot, because when those ones who are afraid, when they hear others contributing, then they get the strength of sharing also what is undergoing in their lives. So I want to say, bringing people together for dialogue meetings, it helps a lot. Yeah. And that's where we can get people now who can come in to stand with them in the advocacy of their human rights. Absolutely. Because quite a number of widows didn't know any rights of them. They never knew they could still get the possession of their land. They never knew they could still claim whatever their husbands had in their own possession. But right now, those ones who have followed the teachings, I can see them being bold and going for whatever was getting deprived from them.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate Elizabeth, what we are discussing. The issue of human rights is key when we want to discuss issues of gender-based violence.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And this is such a huge, huge topic and a huge area that I think has so many pieces to it. And again, I think we all come back to that piece around education, awareness, coming together, standing up. You know, I say in all the schools and in all the groups I go to, it's like, you know what, there's more people in a community, there's more people in a school that just want to get up in the morning, walk through life, and not have to deal with the drama, the hate, the anger. You know, they don't want to be seeing people get mistreated. The majority of us want that. So I always say to people, if we come together and if we work together and if we share this information, then you know what? The circle is going to get bigger. You know, we all have a place in this journey. It's not easy. You know, every single one of us are here for the reason because we want a better world. We want people to be able to be aware of the human rights, practice the human rights, you know, be free from violence in any capacity, whether it be hate. You know, we have gender-based violence, we have domestic violence, family violence, so much. I also work in the area of elder abuse. So I work in the area of, you know, violence towards older people. And it's something that we all feel so strongly about, but I do feel so strongly that it has to start with our children. We need to come back. You know, Maria, you mentioned that you push your nieces hard. I push my son hard, and I push any children in my life hard. I hold them accountable because that's what we need to be holding everyone. We have to be holding ourselves accountable, and we need to be teaching our children that respect. You know what? Like, we need to come back to that mutual respect. So this conversation, and I know I might go a couple minutes over. I'm sorry. Don't pull me off. Don't log me off right away, Maria. I don't want to stop talking yet. But in terms of where this program fits, you know, I think we need to have information in our schools. We need to be in our faith-based organizations. We need to be in our community. If anyone's familiar with restorative justice, I think we need to have these conversations to start talking about the root cause and the impact and the implications of our hate and some of these behaviors. There's always going to be barriers, right? But guess what? That doesn't mean we're going to stop, right? We're going to continue this journey. We're going to continue to work together. I'm going to skip through this. We don't have time for that one. And we're going to continue to have these conversations with one another. So I know I'm a little bit close to my time, but what I thought I would do is just open the floor. I know we've talked about, you know, some pieces around, we didn't cover. When we talk about human rights, we could get into, anyway, Charter of Rights and Freedoms around freedom of speech and things like that, but we don't have time to get into all of that today. We talked about hate crime. We talked about hate incidents, the root cause, where it comes from, the education. And for my young people in this room, you know, like, I'm not getting any younger. I'm not stopping. I'm at schools every day. I'm at schools tomorrow. But for the young people in this room, continue this conversation. If one of your friends, if they're making a comment, if they're saying things, if they're acting in a certain way that just doesn't feel right inside your gut, talk to them. And like Monica had said, you don't have to say it in front of all your friends. You don't have to do it in front of a big crowd because that could be a safety concern. Do it one-on-one. Pull that person aside. If they're truly your friend, they're going to say, oh, I didn't even know that was offensive. I didn't even think about it. I have conversations with grown women and I'll pull them aside and I'll say, you know, you're using that word and it can be offensive. And sometimes they say, oh my gosh, I didn't even think about it. Thank you. I didn't even realize I was being offensive. A lot of times we just continue to let people talk and we don't hold them accountable. So they just continue to talk. And you know what? We all have a voice. We all have that freedom of expression. And I don't want to take that away from anybody. But I think that if we are having conversations with the people in our circle, it's like, let's have that dialogue. Let's point out the hurtful nature. So I see some chats in here. And what I'd love for you to do, I know you have a keynote speaker coming up. Maria, I know I'm at 8 o'clock. First of all, I just want to say thank you. I wish I had more time. I hope that we can continue this conversation. Maria, I know you and I will. Ruth, I know you and I are in touch. But anyone else in this room today, please, I know there's time differences and all these things, but that is my phone number. That is my email. I'm accessible, for any of you, if you have any questions or if I can support any of the work that you're doing.
Wow, wow, wow. I love that closing. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. What a profound way to remind us that we can do better. Each and every one of us. It doesn't matter the age. We can do better. Let's replace the hate with love, with kindness, with respect for the other. But it all starts with the conversation. We want to be able to just extend our most profound gratitude to you, Elizabeth. Thank you so much for sharing your program, which now is now known beyond the borders, beyond the regions, beyond the continent. So thank you for meeting and imparting knowledge to all. Thank you so, so much.
Amen.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Working with you more.
Yes, please reach out. I wish we could just talk for the day. But I know you have better things to do than listen to me talk. So I wish you all the best. I truly do. And please continue this conversation. Reach out to me. And Maria and Ruth, we will connect once you've rested after these 16 days.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we are going to stay in touch. And Monica is also in Edmonton.
Oh,
so
good.
right there, yeah, absolutely. Good. So we will definitely be reaching out. There's more. We've got Canada Virtuous Women all the way from Ottawa. So you've got more Canadians, and the message you shared today, the program you shared, I think we all value it. We will be having more conversations around this for sure.
I look forward to it. Monica, thanks for your contributions today. And I really look forward, hopefully, to meeting you all in person. I hope I meet all of you in person. Everyone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We will for sure.
Oh,
I'm going to Calgary soon.
Can't wait. Sending all my love to each and every one of you. Take care.
Thank you. What a way to start us off today, where we focus on the very things that we can unlearn. Because like we said earlier, during the 16 days, we are here to learn, relearn, and unlearn. And definitely, most definitely, hate is one that we all can unlearn. Amen. If we all want to see a better world and a better future, an act of kindness, no matter how small, spread the love and respect. So we'll move on with the program today. Allow me at this moment to introduce our keynoter, Aveen, who is a passionate advocate for human rights with a particular focus on empowering women and advancing their rights. A gold medalist in her LLM, she had the privilege of studying international human rights law at the University of Oxford, an experience that has greatly enriched her perspective and work. Over the past 8 years, Aveen has dedicated herself to championing women's causes, fighting pro bono cases, and collaborating with NGOs to promote health, hygiene, and economic empowerment for women. She has also partnered with government agencies to raise awareness about the rights of women and girls. In addition to her advocacy, Aveen is an author of law books committed to making legal knowledge accessible and practical. She believes in driving change through both action and education, and remains deeply grateful for the opportunities to serve and contribute to society. without further ado, I will bring forth Aveen to you all.
Thank you, Maria. So today I am blessed that I am speaking on the Day of Human Rights regarding our 16 days activism that's already been going on. To start off, I want to bring to your notice that what exactly are we fighting here for? When I say that it is about discrimination of women or the violation of a gender-based violence, I want to bring to your notice that human right is something that which follows us from cradle to grave. It is just same all around the world, and it should be same at any point of time in our lives. I am dressed here in a particular manner, in a particular fashion, to let you know what do majority of Indian women look like once they are married. The discrimination or the distinction starts from there. You have to be dressed in a particular manner. There are colors that you cannot wear. There are things that you must own or must have. Your hand should always be full with some bangles or something. Irrespective of the fact if you can do or perform your work in that manner or not, in a proper manner because of it or not. This is going to be different for all of us, but what brings us all in here is that there are distinct kind of discrimination that we keep facing every single day of life without even realizing that this is violence of our human right. When a child is born, when a girl child, when female infants are murdered, they are aborted, that is the violence. The child which has not even come to this earth has not been given the right to live also. The child, that embryo, that infanticide does not even know that has been some violence which has been done to it. Similarly, when a child grows up, the girl goes to school, the right to education, to have the education or not to give that education to the girl becomes a question. Which sport that girl will play? Only because she's a girl, she's born in a different gender, she is asked that she cannot play a particular sport, maybe football, maybe volleyball, because that will bring her built in a manner which will not be pleasing to the men later on. She would not be girly enough. Then the career choices a woman makes. It has always been turned in a manner that a person should be having a career or take up a career which will help her with the family, where she can take care of the family along with taking care of other things. So a girl is not being allowed to make career choices on the basis of the capacity and the capability that she holds, but on the basis of this, that which career will help her run the household better. To marry or not to marry is not a choice that she is given. So my biggest challenge here when we are talking about gender-based violence is the right to choice. Are girls given the right to choose what they want and how they want to proceed in life? We are concentrating here on a couple of topics. That is a right to be alive. Right to be alive does not just mean the right to be born. It also includes the right to live a life with dignity, a life with respect, with freedom, with equality, and most importantly, the right to own her thoughts. Then we want to talk about the right to safety and security. Does this only include the security and safety from the world, from the outsiders? This actually starts from within, from the family. Her psychological and emotional safety, where she's allowed to be free to choose what she wants, how she wants to proceed. The same liberty that any other human being has on society. I would not like to take a lot of time of yours, but I want to say that this journey, this fight that we are fighting today is not private. It is public and it is of global concern. I also want to bring ahead one very important point about rape victims. We have got a lot of facilities for rape victims. We try to provide them justice. We have got caretaker homes and everything. But when rape happens, it just does not rip off the clothes of a woman, but it rips off the soul of that girl. Are we doing enough to take care of the emotional disbalance that the girl would be facing after she is raped? Like we already talked in past in these 16 days, that we are building victors and not victims. We want each one of us and all the people, all the lives that we touch, meet, we want to know them, their power. And only once a girl realizes her own potential and power, she will be able to heal herself from the violence that has happened to her, and heal others. Here, I just want to end my speech on a sustainable development goal, the goal number 5, which is of grave importance to us, which talks about to achieve gender equality and empowerment and empower all girls and women. So even when we are talking about sustainable development goals, it is important to understand how important it is to build equality amongst women. If for assumption we understand that women is 50% of population of the world, so if you do not, when we talk about sustainability, it should not just mean sustainability of resources, the natural resources. It also means sustainability of human resources. The human being itself is a resource. So are the women, the resource. So until and unless we empower them, we give them the same weightage and courage, it is very difficult that we will be able to work towards sustainability of in general. Thank you.
Wow, thank you so much, Aveen. I'm just blown away. You reminded us that women are resources and we matter. Women's rights are human rights. Girls' rights are human rights. Girls need to access education is a fundamental human right. You and I have a responsibility to continue the journey of amplifying our voices. Thank you. Thank you for that opening. We will further move on to our panelists, and Aveen, you're also part of the panelists. And we have our high esteemed panelists with us. We have Raquel Kashim Daniels, who is an educator, social entrepreneur, and advocate for children's education and adolescents, girls' sexual and reproductive health in marginalized communities across Nigeria. She is the founder and executive director of Beyond the Classroom Foundation, a nonprofit organization that has impacted over 30,000 children, providing free storybooks, educational supplies, and helping more than 150 children in IDP camps in Abuja return to school. Through Beyond the Classroom Foundation, she supports adolescent girls with menstrual hygiene, education, and free sanitary pads to keep them in school. In 2021, Raquel founded Bambini Africa, a social enterprise focused on creating educational and entertaining resources that foster reading, inspire learning, and ignite children's creativity. with a strong emphasis on African representation. She has developed 6 educational board games, authored over 30 books, covering a wide range of topics that matter to children. Raquel is deeply committed to the transformative power of education, believing it is essential in shaping children's character and raising awareness from a young age. She is no stranger to our platform. She presented yesterday. Stella. She is an advocate of the High Court of Kenya with over 12 years of experience practicing law. She holds a master's degree in public international law from the University of Nairobi. Her areas of specialization include international human rights law, public international law, and international criminal law. She is passionate about advocating for the rights of the marginalized, including women on their sexual and reproductive health rights, affirmative action, and economic empowerment through engaging the policymakers and policy change influencers regionally and globally to advance human rights, protections to the vulnerable, while adopting positive emerging technologies in today's world. And our final panelist is Pearl Yankee, who is an astute professional with over, and again, I'll say Pearl Yankee all the way from Ghana, an astute professional with over 7 years experience in client and organizational management, personal training, public communication, sales, and marketing. She holds a BA in sociology and linguistics and is an app user to Microsoft Office. Basically, she is the marketing chiropractic examiner and public speaker and a social media influencer. And Aveen needs no introduction. I've already read out her bio to you all. So I welcome you all and thank you for saying yes. And I know our panel, I will just go through the quick housekeeping rules. We will ask questions to all panelists, and you will have 2.5 minutes to respond to the question. We may add an extra 30 seconds to make it a total of 3 minutes. And at that point, when you exceed your 3 minutes, we do have a timekeeper today. So a red light will show. So I just wanted us to be cognizant of the time aspect. But once again, I take this opportunity to thank you for saying yes and to come and discuss what is a very important topic and discussion and concern to all of us. We start off by saying women's rights are human rights. Girls' rights are human rights. The girls' access to education is a fundamental human right, and refusing girls to go to school is violation of human rights. So without further ado, I always start because we have to connect with each other. I'd like you to share in 1 minute. This is your icebreaker. In 1 minute, what inspired you to take up this journey? Whether it's advocation of human rights, whether it's in advocacy, whether it's in empowerment, or as a career. What inspired you? And the order of my panelists will go, we start with Aveen, Raquel, Stella, and Pearl. So take it away.
Thank you, Maria. Hello, everyone. I'm pleased to be here. And thank you for the invitation. So as described, my inspiration for the work that I do, really came out from my father. My father, when I was 9, told me that no one in my family had gone past high school. And so I decided, quite early that I would try and ensure that I get a university degree. So which I succeeded in doing and became a first generation graduate in my family. And so seeing that completely changed my life, I decided that I needed to do something to support more girls, especially to be able to go to school and get an education. Because what I saw clearly was that there was not a distinctive difference between my life and that of members of my family, because I got an education, got a better job. And so everything in my life became different. And even in getting married, there's no one in my family among the women got married before they got pregnant. It was always, you get pregnant, you get tossed into a man's house. I did everything differently. And so people started to wonder, so what changed? And we realized it was because I got an education. And so I discovered education really changed my life. I could help give that to other girls. And that's what inspired me to do that. And I started to find out there are other challenges that would not allow the girls to stay in school, which includes gender-based violence and abuse, pregnancy, and all that. And so in order to get the girls in school, we started to address the root cause of the problem, which is what we do currently now. So not just to enroll the girls in school, but also to deal with the root cause of the issues to ensure that they stay in school. So that's my inspiration.
Wonderful. Thank you. And Aveen, what was your inspiration?
Maria, I have been waiting to answer this question. So, being the only child in the family, the only child, so I do not have siblings. I have been born and brought up in a manner that you are everything and you can do everything. So that was a seed that was sown in me very long back. I have questioned everything in the world and everything in the society wherever other girls were not allowed to do since I was a kid. And I always chose up and took challenges and took up things which others were not doing, especially girls, to set an example in the society that if others can do it, if anybody can do it, it is you, it is me. So that is where I got my inspiration. And I have been blessed to be a girl, and I have been blessed to be a part of marginalized society. I have been blessed that I am able to set up these examples for these ladies. And that was the reason why I came up and chose this.
And you're surely doing a lot more. We expect a lot more. The future is just what's going to propel you to the next level, and you're already doing so much and more. And Stella, what was your inspiration? You know, Stella, like I said, she's no stranger to the platform. What was your inspiration?
My inspiration is one, growing up when I was a little girl, the stories I used to hear from my female relatives, aunties, older aunties, and grandmother, it's like the main role of a girl is to grow up, eventually get married, have children, raise children. And I was like, I want more. I mean, these girls don't do anything else. They don't aspire to have better lives, to empower their communities. So when I was in high school, this group of women lawyers came to just a visit to mentor young girls. And I like the way they looked independent. I like the independence. You know, this is a female lawyer. She's dressing in jeans. She has this nice big car. I was like, I want to be that one. And what do? The FIDA does, it fights for the rights of women and girls. So I was like, yeah, this is what I want. And that is what challenged me. And now the exposure on the news and other platforms on what is happening to our women in terms of GBV, human rights violations, disinheritance, the abuse, the physical abuse and assaults. I felt like I want to fight for these women. I have a better chance because I'm educated. If I work hard, I can go to university and study this degree and actually come and fight for these women. That is what I'm doing now. So that is my inspiration.
Oh, wow. Wonderful. And you've got your work cut out for you. We are not stopping.
Yes.
We need you. We need all of you to keep fighting. So we are in this together. So Pearl, I'm off to Ghana now. So Pearl, welcome.
Hello.
What
Thank you.
inspired
Thank you.
you to do the work that you do?
Oh, okay. So I think hello, good afternoon from here. From
Okay, we'll give Pearl a chance to log back on. I think she has frozen. Is her mic still on?
Ghana, and get to the age of, let's say, 18, they don't even get to marry. Then they give birth, and that's it for them. So after junior high school here, there's no one to look up to. Most of us, we had single parents, and these single parents weren't educated, so there was absolutely no one to look up to. We attend schools that are not really good, so when you are done, you feel that, oh, so some of them give birth, some of them go and live with their boyfriends, they end up being treated anyhow and all of that. So luckily for me, I was one of the fortunate people to go to university. Then when I was done, I was like, no, I think there's more to life than these things. My sister from Nigeria said, or no, Kenya said, like I saw people, women being lawyers. I saw women on TV speaking eloquently. I saw women doing greater things. And I'm like, oh, I think I can do this too. So then it opened my eyes. I wanted to achieve more. And I'm like, if I could do it, why don't I drag my fellow girls from that neighborhood? Because I left that neighborhood. Why don't I drag my fellow ladies into it so that women, we can run the world together? So then it opened my eyes. I'm like, I can empower my fellow young girls coming up. So that's how I created the whole foundation about empowerment. I wanted to see my fellow girls win too. Like that women, we have more to offer. We are very powerful. We have more to offer. It's not just about finishing junior high school and then just giving birth. It's not. We can look up to other people. Even if you can look up to your mom, you don't have anyone to look up to. There are more people you can look up to. So I have this passion of speaking to young girls and about this violence against women. It's also very dear to me because growing up, the house I was in, there was a lot of these things going on, like men living with women that they are not even married to, just that they have children together. They think they own them and they beat them. And I feel like if women, we can come together and face these men, or we can empower these women that, see, you are more than just sitting here, just cooking, just doing that and being beaten on top of it all. I mean, you can do also. I feel like women, we have a lot to offer the world, and we can hold hands and then we can win together. That was what motivated me.
Oh, wow. Absolutely couldn't disagree with you on that. That there's power when we come together and there's power when we collaborate. So now, ladies, looking at the impact of local context in this case, because we're all coming from different settings, I'd like you to take a moment to look at certain aspects. How does culture, or how do cultural, political, and socio-economic factors in your respective countries shape your approach to human rights work? I'll repeat the question again. How do cultural, political, and socio-economic factors in your respective countries shape your approach to human rights work? And we'll start with Raquel. And you have 2.5 minutes to respond, and we'll give you an additional 30 seconds.
Okay. Thank you, Maria. So culturally, when I started working in the marginalized communities in Nigeria here with the girls, what I discovered is that a lot of social norms, was one of the reasons why the girls were being, restricted from going to school. So part of it is that most of these communities where a man has, let's say, more girls than boys, all the girls are in school. Even if he has one son, he puts the boy in the best school that he can afford, and then the girls are at home. And even when we have scholarship for a girl that is exceptional, and we bring it to a family, the father insists, or the mother sometimes insists, that we give it to the boys and not the girls. And so that kind of social norm that's acceptable, like it's not supposed to be acceptable anyways, had really informed our work. So we started to look at what other kind of traditions that is acceptable can we use to reach the parents. One is, we have this tradition of it takes a village to reach out, where in communities, a lot of people they are very involved in the lives of other people. So what we do is we find out who exactly do the parents listen to. And when we reach out to them, we're able to get them to talk to the parents, and the parents will release their girls to us. And that always works. So I will also realize also that the traditional leaders are people that the parents listen to. And so that help us to, to define the kind of work that we do by ensuring that we don't just go into a community gambling, or you have to give us girls to go to school. We go to community leaders, traditional leaders, and even religious leaders in communities to say, the parents listen to you. Can you talk to these people? Can we have dialogue and ensure that we explain to them the benefit of education? And then that allows them to allow their girls to attend the schools. And so the mothers will say to us, if they don't have anyone to stay in their shed where they sell, maybe they are petty traders, they'll have to take the girls back with them. And so what we do is help them to get more in their business. So how much do you need to stay in your business? So they might maybe another additional 10,000 naira, 20,000 naira that will support their business. And with that way, they're unable to take girls out of school to join them in their trade. So I also have some legislative reforms that helped us. And one is the Domestic Violence Act that some states in Nigeria have adopted. That has really helped our work, because when we quote that act in our communities, all the men kind of sit up, because that now informs, that, there's an act that is directly targeted at domestic violence, not just Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, as a VAP Act. So there's a direct act on gender-based violence. And when we quote that to the community, everyone kind of sits up, because they know that this is targeted at them, the perpetrators. So when you look at some of these laws and the culture, that has helped us to design programs that would help us. So instead of doing a work against violence, which might not be effective for us, we go to communities and work directly and dialogue with community people. So we don't just pick what people are doing that is working for them. We go to community, find out what works, and then we use that.
Wow, amazing, because really basically meeting the people where they're at, as opposed to prescribe what would work for them. And I love the fact that there is that inclusion of working with the traditional leaders, with the community leaders, because again, people are more responsive and receptive when you respect them and when you respect their values. So this, taking it on to Aveen on the same question, what has been your observation in India?
Maria, it is similar to what Raquel just mentioned, because we are alien to those societies. So we cannot go there and tell them something that what they have been doing for years is wrong. Say we talk about child marriage. So it becomes very difficult to communicate about these things. The person already thinks us as an alien and an outsider. So at that time, the local guardians or the local people, those who are there, they help us a lot. So, first is to create that awareness in those people and to also talk about and make them understand the futuristic aspects of these things. So, like it is very well said that if you teach a man, you teach an individual, and if you teach a woman, you teach a family. So, it is important to make them understand that why are we making these changes? To show them the greater aspect, the greater prospect towards the future and the kind of impact it is going to have on them as well as the future generation as well. So this we do definitely with the localites, because changing a system or a culture is very different, very difficult. And then doing it in a religious method, because everything like India is closely bound with religion. So we give them instances from mythologies and tell them that why they should respect women. So in that manner, it helps us a lot because people do not want to disobey to something that is already written in the mythology. That's somewhere where they definitely bow down.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love that. I love that. Again, fundamentally, it's important for us to respect and meet the communities, people in the various communities we work in, where they're at. We have to respect their values and then educate them, raise awareness, and relearn so that they have an opportunity to relearn and change mindsets. So I'll move on to Stella with the same question. Looking at the setup in Kenya.
Thanks, Maria, for that. I can say that culture for the longest time in Kenya has been used to violate the rights of women and girls. They've always been disadvantaged. It appears that it is the men who are the beneficiaries because the practices that have been there undermine the value of the woman, the dignity of the woman in the society. Girls have been denied education. They've been forced into early marriages because of culture. They've been mutilated. Their genital organs have been mutilated because of culture. Ideally, culture should be enjoyed. It should not be something that infringes on one person's rights. And what the government has done, it has come up with mechanisms to define what is good culture. For example, it has come up with legislation to criminalize female genital mutilation. That way, the practice or any person found practicing such is charged in a criminal law, so that even communities, they have been empowered. We bring on board the community. We identify other programs where the cutters can engage in other economic activities that can actually empower them rather than violating on the rights of our children and girls. So for the longest time, although culture has not been enjoyed by women, now the government has acknowledged us. Yes, this is there, but it's wrong. So some practices have been criminalized to ensure that we ban the harmful culture. And as a result, women have become more and more empowered. They are allowed, or the law recognizes that a woman can own property in her name. It doesn't have to be under the name of the man. A woman can go to school, can have a career, can raise children, can have a family. So yes, at the moment, yes, the culture is recognized in our constitution, and no one should violate the cultural practices of other communities. But then it should not infringe on other people's rights. So that is the step that Kenya has taken so far.
Oh wow, well said. And I mean, it's more progressive. We definitely appreciate the fact that it sounds more the government is being made more accountable, being brought to that realization that the people who are feeling the brunt of the violations, it's women. The constitution that we serve somehow fails the women and the girls. But we're happy for you to share that there is some progress being made, accountability. And Pearl, take us to Ghana and give us a feel of what that is looking like in terms of empowerment, culture, and how is that helping you spread your message? Pearl needs to unmute herself.
I think she's from.
She must be frozen. Looks like she dropped. We will continue for the benefit of time and progress, and she'll join us whenever she comes back on. So moving on to where we're looking at advancing equality. I want you to share with us what role does education play in advancing human rights awareness among vulnerable communities? What
Hello,
role
Maria.
does
Um, um, I think
Carl
I'm
is
back. My
coming back.
network is
okay?
Go ahead, Bill.
Go ahead.
can you hear me? Yes, hi. I think I
We
have a little
right
bit of
now
a
we
network
can.
issue. Okay. All right. So I was saying that I think the we are doing well with that when it comes to Ghana. We are doing very well with that because I think I don't know if you guys if you've heard that our vice president is even a female, is a woman. So I think the education about that is going on very well. People
Well,
are
I think you
giving
can put the video off. That can help with it.
opportunities to lead. Can you hear me?
Right. What we will do, Pearl, just to help
Yeah.
you a bit, we're gonna turn off our video so that you won't be lagging, and then you can speak into the mic. We're gonna try that, okay?
Okay.
So
Okay.
we're gonna turn off our videos. Go ahead.
Okay. Please, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, sure. So yeah, so as I was saying, I'm sorry about my network. I think I'm having a bit of some issues with that. So I was saying that yes, with Ghana, I think we used to also have child marriages way back. But I think we are fighting against it. They have been given positions. I don't know if you people heard. Just yesterday, our president was announced, and then the vice president is a female. We have the first female vice president of Ghana, and also we have women who can marry, they can have kids, they can have a career. We have CEOs, we have general managers who are females, who are women. So I think it's going well in Ghana. We a lot of people hear about women empowerment, about women being given their voices, about women being given opportunities to lead and to be in positions and to be in power. So I think in Ghana we are having a step in the right direction.
Thank you for sharing, Pearl. We certainly appreciate, and we say congratulations to Ghana. Women making strides. Hats off to Africa. We all win as Africa as a whole. We want to see more women. And moving on with that same question earlier on, what role does education play in advancing human rights awareness amongst vulnerable communities? And I'll start with Raquel. Because again, your area, the areas that you focus, I felt we had to deal with that, the education part, but are we reaching out to the vulnerable, the marginalized communities?
Thank you, Maria. So what I noticed in my work, was a lot of times we use big words when we're trying to create awareness or educate people about human rights issues, girls' rights especially. And so what I started to research how can we use education to actually teach people, especially those in marginalized communities. And the first thing I noticed is we have to use their language, because it's very important that we reach them with the language that they understand. So for one, we have a board game on girls' rights that the girls play in school, and boys, and it has a flashcard in it, and you use the flashcard to play the game just like snakes and ladders. And it comes in very simple English, all in Hausa language, where a girl would read it in her language and understand basic girls' rights, in school and even out of school. So we play the game in the community. We have a video on Instagram that went live today of girls playing that game in community setting. And they're playing it in their language, and some play it in English. So you have to educate them about human rights issues, and for us to work with girls. And so as a trained educator, I ensure that the teaching is targeted directly at the things that they understand. So if they pick up a flashcard, for instance, you are seeing things like girls are not, and boys are not better than girls, stuff like that. Very easy that parents say to children and girls in their homes all the time. And girls can take on science courses, girls can be engineers, so things like that to debunk those understanding, or girls have a right to education. So that's what we do with the board game. And then we realize that, that's not enough. How can we take that into the classroom to develop some sort of curriculum that's easy to understand? Then we have a book that's easy to understand that teaches girls about rights, and boys who can read the book. So with the book and the board game, as tools for education, we're able to get people in the communities and schools to use it and understand their rights, especially the girls in the communities and in the school. And so we have bypassed all the big grammar that people would use on TV, or when you're having advocacy programs or conferences and you're speaking over their heads. They don't understand what you're saying. But when they come to the community program where we are, they kind of understand what we're saying, because the language we're using is language that they use day to day in their communities. So there's power in education, and we have to go away from just doing awareness to really doing education, because a lot of them are aware of the issues, but they're not educated on the matter. So that is the power for us of education, in ensuring that children and girls especially learn about their rights in and out of school.
Wow, that is so profound. I'm curious to learn more about the board games, because I think we could all use that as a resource and tool to reach out. You've simplified it and broken it down, and there's the power of the game there. So, Aveen, the same question to you in terms of the role of education.
Sure, Maria. So the first thing is that we educate the people, and that education starts from the school. Like we talked, that sometimes people are unaware. So when we start that education from the very beginning, from the very elementary level, the boys are able to differentiate that they are equally a part of the society. This also includes the skill development of female, which makes them more empowered, and they are not dependent on others, which help them to regain their trust and beliefs in themselves. Then we question all the kinds of prejudices which are prevalent in the society. So which makes them think and go back in time to understand if whatever is done, is it right or wrong? And then it comes from them, from themselves, that whatever is done, there's some change which can be done, or some changes which could help them. So sometimes when people see it as a third person, they may not be able to relate. But then if it is about the same mother, their sisters, they are able to relate better. Then we try to bring forth women in more powerful positions. Like we have got panchayats in villages. So in the rural areas, we have got panchayats. So we try to bring in women over there, so that the other women feel heard, and the other women can also feel that one day she can taste those power, which encourages her to study better, to study more. Then the other part is to provide them with resources of healthcare, of nutrition, that we do by the help of the government and by the participation of individuals, where we try to open up clinics, and they have got monthly visit or weekly visits. That is all time depending upon the situation. All of these little things, when clubbed together, actually makes up to the human rights that a lady needs to survive better or to compete in the male dominated society.
So those little things, as you reference, the little things, that the programs that you put on the ground, they not only serve as empowerment tools, but women are educated from there. And just to piggyback on what Raquel said, that being aware, our communities are aware. but we definitely can see that there is a gap when it comes to education. And we see that education brings more positive results in terms of empowering, making them more aware, but at least sustainable empowerment in that regard. And Stella, take us to the situation in Kenya when it comes to the role of education as you deal with marginalized communities.
Thanks, Maria, for that. One of the ways of eradicating harmful norms, harmful stereotypes, is through education. And one of the ways that education is gainful in advocating for the rights of women and girls is how we package this information. Training or having dialogues with the community elders, community leaders, is different from having dialogues with government or state agencies. When we want to address the perpetrators or the enablers of these vices, we package the information in such a way that it is more of a dialogue. You tell us why you practice this. We tell you the harmful effects. We give them actual raw data. The scientific effects, for example, of FGM, the harmful effects of wife inheritance. That way, when we have these educative processes with the community leaders, we give them the actual information through education, but in forms of dialogue, so that they understand from the legal perspective the side effects or the harmful causes of these practices. Education is also important because when we package this information in the school curricula, we plant seeds for our young ones so that when they grow up, we have eliminated the harmful norms that they will be exposed to in their communities, in their environments. And they'll be the advocates of the protection of women and girls growing up, and even when they become decision makers. Because once this the human rights education is impacted in the syllabus, in the school curricula, then the young people grow up knowing that this is wrong. They can actually identify with what is wrong, what is right, and they can challenge the harmful practices themselves. So education plays a key role. It supports the enhancement of human rights in Kenya, and it has actually worked because when we bring the men on board, and the elders, the community leaders, they are the ones who now start advocating for the protection of their daughters, their nieces, rights, because they have actually been empowered and informed on the benefits of this. So yes, education does work. It has worked. It is continuing to work in Kenya in advancing human rights. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you. Thank you. And I always look at Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, making definitely we cannot overlook the progress that is being made in reference to empowerment, not only of women, but you're definitely pushing certain taking stands on certain positions when it comes to violation of human rights, although gaps are still prevalent. We cannot deny that. There's still a lot of work that needs to be done. Now, I'm going to be looking at your specific countries in this particular question, which I'm going to ask you. So each of you in this case, Aveen, we will start with you where we will look at India, and then I'll come back to Nigeria, Raquel, Nigeria, then Kenya. And if Pearl is here, then we'll come to Ghana. So looking at, this is an India specific question for you, Aveen. How does the Indian constitution's focus on fundamental rights influence your work in protecting individual freedoms? And secondly, what role do you see for grassroots movements, such as those advocating for Dalits' rights in shaping national human rights discourse?
Mira, may I request you to repeat the second part of the question, please?
Okay. What role do you see for grassroots movements? And I just quote, and again, there could be many others off the top of my head, such as those advocating, let's say, for Dalit, maybe the way I'm pronouncing DALIT, rights, in shaping national human rights discourse. And you could use any other movement act.
Okay, sure. Thank you for the question, Maria. So the first question regarding the Constitution. So the Constitution shows no disparity between the two genders. And everything, the Constitution is actually the framework from where all of the other laws are derived. So Indian Constitution and the other laws have done amazing work in empowering women legally regarding their rights in protection in terms of protection at every stage. So may it be education, may it be work. So we grant women 33% weightage in all the government agencies wherever they want to participate. That is the minimum that they have to give, not that it cannot exceed. So that is to make all the bodies, the governmental bodies, forced to give weightage to women and not judge them as that they would underperform in terms of performance when it is concerned. So that encourages women deep down to educate herself, to come up, because she knows that she will be able to make use of that education. So even in the government sectors, not just the government sectors, but even in the governance, there is 33% of women which are given advantage. Even while buying properties, they are giving advantage. So at every law that we look at, the women have been given advantage everywhere. They're given a less rate of interest. They have to pay less rate of interest in the banks. While buying property, they can take more advantage of that. On the other part, when we are talking about Dalits, SCST, I mean that you actually want to refer to the marginalized society. Here, the first thing that we do is to protect them, their constitution. We want to ensure that when we are trying to mix them to our general public, it's not that we are hampering what they have been following for years. First thing is to make them feel protected and connected to us, giving them the liberty to participate in the general, amongst the general public. And at the same time, respecting their laws and rules which they follow. So India is such a country which has got diverse religions as well, and diverse castes. So our constitution and other laws gives us respect in that term as well. So here we are married, everybody is married in different format, and all of those marriages are termed as they are married legally. So that is what India does, to respect their religion and human rights.
So much to learn, so much to learn. And as I move on to Nigeria, Raquel, Nigeria has a reputation for quote unquote political stability or instability. How has this affected the protection and promotion of human rights in the country? And secondly, what role does the judiciary play in advancing accountability for human rights violations, and how accessible is it to ordinary citizens?
Okay, so yes, there's been some form of stability, but the truth is that some of our laws that are not clearly defined, so they're very broad. And so what that does to us is that if you go to some states, only about 30 out of 34 states in Nigeria have adopted the Child Rights Act, for instance. So what that means is that the states that have not adopted that right, or that act, I beg your pardon, already have children who are there who are at risk. And the government is not doing anything about it. So while it looks like there is some form of stability, there's the part of the law that the government is not doing anything about to enforce the states to to adopt the laws and implement it in their states. So that's one. Another thing is that we have the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act, which is a VAP Act. And the act doesn't target clearly people with disability, for instance. It just says persons. And so a man could rape a woman and then go scot-free if he says she didn't say anything while he raped her, and it could mean that maybe because she gave consent. So even if she was dumb, or maybe she's blind, she couldn't see him, he could go scot-free. So there's that blind spot in our laws that the government is not doing anything about. So, but nonprofits are coming up to say we have to clearly define what these laws are and break it down subsections so that we can clearly say these are the part of the laws that affects XYZ people, including people with albinism or any form of disability in it. So because some of these laws have gray areas, people continue to get involved in all this gender-based violence against women and girls, and they go scot-free. And so even while you're saying we have some sort of government stability, we don't have government enforcing laws that puts people who do these things behind bars. Not many of them end up in prison. And those who end up in prison leave within a very short period of time because of lack of strong political will around gender-based violence and abuse. And so can I get a second question, please? I know I missed a second one.
Okay, so we were looking at the role the judiciary play in advancing accountability for those violations, human rights violation, and how accessible is it to citizens, ordinary citizens.
Okay. Yes, so currently that we are part of a group of nonprofits that are trying to push forward a sexual harassment bill in tertiary institution. And it's gone past first hearing in the National Assembly, and we're looking forward to going to the Senate and then to get presidential assent. And it's been a difficult journey because it didn't start with us. We just joined this year. Some nonprofits have been in this for so many years. So the legislation play a huge role, but not so much, because once you miss the mark within these first 2 years, then they start planning for the next election for next year, and everything else goes to the back burner. So they understand that they have a role to play, but not many of them are doing what they ought to do. So what we need to do is amplify our voices, to continue to speak, continue to write, to continue to have conversations around these issues and call them out to say, enforce these laws that we have, amend these laws so that people that are harassed sexually or otherwise, or in any form of violence, can get justice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Bring them to also making them accountable. And which is something that we ought to learn to do, that it is our right to hold the various governments accountable. So Stella, so on the same aspect with Kenya, in Kenya, how do you address challenges related to land rights or forced evictions, particularly for marginalized people or communities, or women in this case?
Thanks, Maria, for that question. Our constitution is very elaborate on land rights. This is one of the rights that used to be trampled upon, especially when it came to the marginalized and women. But it is very clear now under our constitution on land ownership. It has clearly defined community land. It has clearly defined, it has actually recognized that women can own land. It has established that there is trust land, and who owns trust land. So once these definitions are in place, the marginalized who normally fall under these communities, say, who own trust land or community land, they are able to now exercise their rights because they are protected within the constitution. They are protected within the law, and they can fight for ownership of this property. I know under the previous constitution, these rights were not there. And this really affected women when it came to inheritance, because once the husband dies, the in-laws, especially the male in-laws, they take over the property, and the woman is disenfranchised because she doesn't have anywhere to live. She has children who she has to fend for, but because the law is not in her favor, then she cannot get justice. But the constitution is very clear, and it has also established the land court, the environment and land court, which enforces these provisions in the constitution to ensure that the marginalized actually get to enjoy their rights in terms of property ownership. So yes, it is a work in progress, but yes, we're on the right track, because once we have the laws in place, it becomes a matter of enforcement. Yes, Maria.
Absolutely. Thank you. Again, it comes to not only implementation, but enforcement of the actual laws once they are in place. And we always say kudos again to Kenya for the progress that you're making. And as I come to the end of the panel discussion, I will then ask of you, all of you will answer the same question in 2 minutes. You all have 2 minutes to answer the question. So we're looking at the cross-regional and probably collaborative focus. Looking at technology and social media have become powerful tools in advocacy. How are you leveraging these tools, and what are the risks involved? I'll repeat again. Technology and social media have become powerful tools in advocacy. How are you leveraging these tools, and what are the risks involved? So I will start with Stella, then Pearl. I see Pearl was here. Pearl is here, then Raquel and Aveen. And then we'll call upon Shirley to come on. She's been waiting patiently. So ladies, take it away.
Thanks, Maria, for this. Let me say, you are right. Technology is a very powerful tool, but in the wrong hands, it can actually be used to perpetuate technology facilitated GBV. One of the ways this can be, we can leverage technology. One, through technology, we can access many more people. It has a wider audience. You can reach people in real time. You can get information in real time on what is happening. You can actually have campaigns. If there's a wrong that the government is doing, and getting them to actually right that wrong has become a challenge because of the bureaucracies involved. Technology has been used to leverage and fight for these rights through hashtags, through online campaigns. And these tools have been very useful to make change. We saw what happened recently with the Gen Z in Kenya. They were opposing the finance bill because they felt it is more of a punitive legislation by overtaxing Kenyans. And you saw the movement was online. There was no organization, there was no body governing these young people. But they mobilized themselves using technology, and they were able to make their voices heard. And the government actually Parliament withdrew that bill because they felt they were listening to the voices of the people using technology. But the challenge, or one of the ways the challenge to technology can be misinformation, disinformation. And sometimes you can have this good tool to use to advocate for a certain agenda, but you may have other people who can use the information. They use it to misinform the public. They change the context of the information you want to change, and they actually now in the process cause more harm. So yes, we can leverage on technology, but we also have to see like the darker side of it in terms of TFGBV and the harmful practices and and the consequences, especially towards the victims. Thanks, Maria.
Appreciate. Well said. Well said. What a way to wrap it up. Next.
Okay.
Pearl.
Okay. Yeah. So I feel technology and social media very, very powerful tools, and it goes a long way to help. So one of the ways is like even this what we are having right now, I feel is technology. Through technology, I can be here in Ghana. Madam Maria is in another country. We have Nigeria coming together to share our views, and then see how we can push this agenda. It's the same way I do with my girls. Most of our talks are mostly on either Google Meet or I think Zoom. We've even had Madam Linda Banja speaking to my girls, I think some months ago. Yeah. So I feel it's very powerful, and it really helps. It really helps getting resource personnel from other countries with very powerful ideas, sharing it with these girls. It really helps. And like my sister said, was one of the ways that Kenya used to go against their bills. We have other countries, we know what's going on in other countries, we know a lot of things because of technology. However, if it's not used wisely, like especially with our Gen Zs, like these are younger sisters or younger daughters coming up using TikTok. I mean, we see what's going on TikTok of late is something that is I don't know if it's a trend. Ladies showing themselves and all kinds of things. If it's not used wisely, I mean, it breeds a lot of things. So I feel technology, social media is very, very powerful if used wisely, like how we are doing right now, sharing of ideas, and then I mean impacting young girls through that. But then if not used well too, it has a way of impacting negatively upon these little ones that are coming up. So that is what I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Absolutely. Our fear is when it is being misused. It may not send positive messages like in right. So Raquel, let's hear from you in terms of technology, because you sound to me more tech. I love that, and we want to we're still gonna carry you up on the board game. So when it comes to technology and social media, we know they've become powerful tools in advocacy. How are you leveraging these tools, and what are the risks involved?
Okay, so I realized that because I have a bit of a following on social media, I ensure that my organization currently, at all times collaborates with my page on social media when there's a very important message to be passed. And also, I always post and say, if you have to put a message out there, you want to reach more people, if your demography is part of my following, I can always share them on my social media. So that's part of something I do without even charging a fee or anything to anybody. And then what I realized with the 16 day of activism, coming forward is how I was able to connect radio and technology together to ensure that I use radio to talk about gender-based violence and abuse on girls during the 16th day of activism that ended today, that's ending today. So what I did was do a media tour where I went to 9 radio stations within the 16 days to talk about gender-based violence and abuse. And so while I'm on radio, I'm recording the session on my phone. I'm posting them on the groups that I belong so that people can also share, and I'm encouraging them to listen. And so the stations that have apps, I was sharing their apps to say, download the apps and listen on radio. So because radio has a huge reach, but then even though it's not considered technology, but using some variants of technology, So, but how I was able to connect them to say, if you're on WhatsApp, I'm posting my flyers that pull you from social media to the radio station to listen. So it's social media powerful because I made flyers for every radio station I went to, and so because of the flyers that were shared, people from Instagram will want to listen to radio on the day I'm on the show because of that. So people will say, oh, thank you for bringing followers from Instagram to the radio. And people who typically will not listen to radio or not even have radio in their homes go on the web to listen to radio on the day I was on different shows. So that's the way that I'm seeing I could leverage. And I decided, oh, this really went on well. 9 radio stations in 16 days. It was a lot, and 2 TV stations. But what can I do more? So I decided that, now these 9 people connect me to other organizations for next year, other TV or radio, that we can continue to do this store and continue to use either radio and TV, merge with any form of technology, WhatsApp or Instagram, or go live on radio, on Instagram, really, so that you can just watch us live on Instagram or live on Facebook. So those are all the ideas that I came up with during the media tour to help our next tour, which will happen next year, of course, after this break. So I think that we can do more. I don't want to talk about what other people are talking about. That's why I'm focusing on what we are doing with radio and social media to ensure that we reach people. We hope that we're able to take the board games into an app eventually, because I have 6 board games. I have a board game on menstruation, girls' rights, safety for children, hand washing, 6 board games in general. Climate, and I think last one is on hand washing or something like. So there are 6 of them. We're able to take this board game to a platform like an app where anybody can access it from anywhere in the world. That way, it's not just situated in communities that have no access to technology, but that wherever you are in the world, you can learn about these things, menstruation, girls' right, whatever it is, at the tip of your finger when you just have an app. And so I think that leveraging technology is fantastic. You reach more people and faster.
Well, I can tell you, you're already making impact. Canada Virtuous Women want to learn more about your board game on menstruation. So hopefully you and Adeline Jang will touch base. And that's the beauty about what we do. We are here to share. And Aveen, what's your take when it comes to technology and social media?
Amplifying voices, definitely. Sitting here today because of this. This is like a roundtable conference where we are connecting from different time zones, from different countries, different continents. This also makes us feel that we are not alone. This has removed that stigma from society or that fear in women. That has also helped us be more vocal about the pain that one is feeling or the cause that one is going through. This has also helped at grassroots levels where they do not have the support of technology and things. So we reach out to them, and when we talk to them, we are able to put their voices in through social medias on our accounts. This has also helped us with crowdfunding. This is one very important thing which has helped us at multiple times. And sometimes when we are talking about the rural atmosphere, maybe the person next door is not able to help you. Maybe the person 10 kilometers is not able to help you, but a person 1,000 kilometers away is in a capacity to be able to help. So this has helped people in that manner. This has also helped us to raise awareness and to be aware ourselves. In these 16 days program, this has been incredible, where we learned about so many kinds of violences which we were not even aware of or which we never thought about. This has also helped me from time to time to reach out to the powerful people whom we need to voice out and who could actually bring in the change in the governance. So that is how social media has helped. Now, talking about the disadvantage, which is even more important. Social media is limited to a particular segment of people and in particular hands. So now this becomes a problem when the information is not censure is cannot be validated. Anybody can say anything that they want. And this goes out after tag and sharing after sharing without even confirming that information if it is right or wrong. The activists are at threat at the moment because it becomes very easy to find out somebody's details from social media. The bad hate speech happens on social media, which again makes people threatened, their families threatened. And also a lot of information has been shared, is shared on social media, which makes it difficult to to be authentic and then be protected at the same time. So that is one of the biggest issue which I feel biggest drawback of social media. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you. Wow. I have goosebumps. And thank you for making this session worth waiting for. There was so much to unpack and learn, so many nuggets. Thank you for celebrating human rights with us, for acknowledging that the women's rights are human's rights, for acknowledging that the girls' rights are human rights. the girls' access to education is a human right. Thank you for educating our communities. Thank you for meeting them where they're at. It's one thing about being aware, but it is the education that they need. Thank you for standing in the gap. I will at this point call upon Shirley, our youngest activist and speaker for 2024. Shirley Juma, all the way from Nairobi, Kenya.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever corner of the world you are tuned in from today. Honorable guests, respected speakers, dear participants, and all those present today, it gives me great joy and hope to stand before you as we conclude the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. These days have been filled with powerful discussions, inspiring stories, and crucial actions toward the fight against gender-based violence. On behalf of everyone here, I would like to express our heartfelt thanks to all who have made this event possible and those who have joined us in this important journey. As I reflect on everything we've learned and shared, I want to end with a poem that expresses the gratitude and hope that fills my heart today. A poem of thanks and hope. We've gathered here, hand in hand, to stand for justice, take a stand. 16 days, a powerful voice, a call for change, a unified choice. To all the speakers, brave and true, who shared their hearts, their wisdom too. Your words have touched us, made us see the strength we have to set us free. To the organizers, thank you so for bringing us together to grow. Your efforts shine, your work is clear, and we are stronger because you're here. To the participants, young and old, your courage speaks, your hearts are bold. Together, we will pave the way for a brighter, safer world someday. But though these days may soon be done, the battle must continue on. For change is ours to build and make. Together, we'll stand for progress' sake. So thank you all for all you've done, for in this fight, we are all one. Let's carry forward what we've learned until a world of peace is earned. Thank you all, and may the journey to a world free from gender-based violence continue in each of our hearts and actions. Thank you.
Wow. I'm at loss for words. It gives me hope. And you affirmed why the conference is going to come to Africa. You've just affirmed why we got to keep doing what we are doing. You have just affirmed to me as an African woman, as an aunt to you, why we gotta keep fighting for your voices to be heard, why the world needs to meet as Shirley Juma from Nairobi, Kenya, why we are gonna bring the conference to Africa. And I cannot wait to give you one big hug in Bloemfontein, South Africa. Thank you. I am so super proud of you. You do us proud. And as African women and women from around the globe, we are super duper proud of you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
You were
And
not
That is,
supposed to do that to Auntie Maria.
thank you. Very proud of my little girl.
Thank you, Dad and Mom, for giving us Shirley and allowing her to be on our platform throughout the 16 days. We thank you. And be a good girl. Keep shining at school. You told us you want to be a doctor. So I'm going to make sure you become my doctor. Right? Is that a promise? And when I see you next year in Africa, I want to see your report. How's that? Is that a promise? Right?
Yeah.
You're going to bring more girls who are going to be doctors like you? Good girl.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm now going to call upon Monica to give us the final closing. It has been a great 16 days, but let's not forget, every day should be 16 days of activism against gender-based violence or any form of violence against women and girls. So Mamacita, take it away.
Thank you. This has been amazing, right? We survived. It's hard to do it, but we did it. But we didn't do by ourselves. We do it together. And we probably gonna change a little bit for next year, the format, because we want to be more extended. We are not by ourselves. We have so many tools. And we start within the crisis of COVID to do this, to use this, to be together. And Maria knows that I always recommend it, and probably we're gonna do that book, The Hero Maker. Each one of you are heroes makers. As I was said earlier, is the one-on-one conversations, or these conversations that we have, that we're gonna help that woman, that girl, that through the education or the conversation that we can have. We are not lectures. We are helpers. We are heroes, and the heroes serve. We are servers. And we has been created, and we have been taking the time to do this, to end the gender-based violence. Probably it's not going to be in my generation, but it's going to be one more person that can be out of that place. And that person is going to multiply with another person, because she's going to help somebody, because she was there. It's together that we can do this, but with the individual effort that each one in whatever place of the planet you are, that you can do it. Thank you one more time. And this is not the end, but the start. Every day that you wake up and that God give you the strength to go and talk with somebody else, that is a winner. Thank you for these 16 days of Activist 2024. And we're going to start a nice 2025. That's it, Maria. Back to you.
Absolutely. Like I said earlier on, as we finish this remarkable journey of the 16 days against gender-based violence, we will once again take a minute to sincerely thank you and say thank you to every one of you who made this campaign relevant and successful. To the people who lent their voices and related their stories, we cannot say thank you enough. Your bravery motivates us to carry on with this struggle, but your commitment to the pillar of our movement to the coordinators, the volunteers behind the scenes who put the endless efforts. We thank you. To the frontline activists, social workers driving the change, your resilience reminds us of the force on unflinching dedication. Monica and I couldn't be more proud that we crossed paths with you all. Your leadership guides the road, as Monica said, towards what tomorrow will hold. The advancements of families, businesses, schools, and beyond. Monica did say this is not finished. And collectively, we have advanced awareness, raising broken silence and set the foundation for long-lasting transformation. Together in the collective, we had a goal. And I hope and trust that in 2025, what we continue to soar, we take it a notch further and bring more communities. Raquel, thank you for blessing us. Now that maybe through your platform and your followers, they'll know Hope for Her exists. But Hope for Her does not come alone. It comes together with Canada Virtuous Women. It comes together with Alpha Support Men all the way from Kakamega, Kenya. It comes with Holding My Hands. It comes with Avin from India. It comes with Shirley, the young activist. It comes with Madame Linda Banja. It comes with the Lord. It comes with Pearl, all the way from Ghana. It brings us all together in the collective. It comes from Fishley Montessori, all the way from Zimbabwe. It brings us forth in the collective as we continue to amplify our voices. And we will continue until women and girls are treated as equals, until girls are recognized and realized for their potential and their capabilities. And they'll be called out by their names, not by the way they look, but by their names. So it is till then. Thank you. Asante sana. Merci beaucoup. Mucho gracias. Majita henyu. Danki siabonga. Till then. I wish you all, we wish you all a Merry Christmas for those that celebrate, or it's Happy Holidays.
Kwaheri.
Take good care.
Asante.
Asante. It is a wrap. Woo!